Hi, my name is Ken Bradford, and on behalf of the Sonoma County Paramedics Association membership and the Survivors Reunion Core Committee, I'd like to welcome you to this year's virtual Survivors Reunion. First of all, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Reverend Rod Bowman of the Law Enforcement Chaplaincy, retired, to do our invocation.
Please join me in the invocation. O Lord, we give thanks to you, the author and sustainer of all creation, and of all that lives therein. On this special occasion, we remember especially all first responders, our police and sheriff's officers, firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs, those whose calling it is to be there in our times of crisis and need, bringing protection and help. Many times they run toward danger at the risk of their own lives. We remember those in the medical field, the emergency department doctors, surgeons, nurses, technicians, and staff who attend to us with alacrity and compassion. We remember the chaplains and clergy who bring spiritual hope and support. Remember also those who have families and loved ones who care for them and who depend upon them. Bless them all, O Lord. Strengthen and protect them. We have been through a difficult year, O Lord. We remember the bereaved by the pandemic and pray that you bless and comfort them as only you can. And may they find solace and strength in you. And on this special evening, we celebrate with those whose lives have been spared from tragedy, who by your mercy and quick thinking and response of their rescuers have been returned to the embrace of their loved ones. We thank you, O God, for their spared lives. And now, Lord, we ask your blessing upon this occasion. Fill it with your joy and special memories. We ask all in your holy name. Amen.
Thanks, Rod. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Congressman Mike Thompson of the 5th Congressional District, who has been a great supporter of our event and a great supporter of public safety. Congressman Thompson.
I'm Congressman Mike Thompson, and it's my honor to join you virtually for the 27th Annual Survivors Reunion. Today is a chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with the survivors and their family members. We celebrate your lives, and we celebrate the heroic efforts of those who helped to save your life. For some, it was a family member or a bystander who stepped in to bridge the gap before the first responders arrived. For others, it was the 911 operator, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, emergency room personnel, and so many other first responders. Those first responders often arrive at chaotic scenes, not knowing what they will be called on to do. But they always arrive ready to help, to act with care and compassion, and to put themselves in harm's way if need be. We're forever grateful for their efforts. During EMS Awareness Month, this gratitude is particularly important. Thank you, and thank you to everyone who turned out virtually to support this event.
Thank you, Congressman Thompson. Now it gives me pleasure to introduce to you someone who has been a great supporter of public safety, emergency medical services, lives in the community, has served in the community for many years, and that would be State Senator Mike Mcguire. Senator Mcguire.
Hi, this is Mike Mcguire, State Senator. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you today. I'm honored to be able to join with you to commemorate the incredible journey of the 6 survivors that we're recognizing in this challenging year, and to honor the first responders, those first responders who stepped up to be able to save their lives. I think that we can all agree that Sonoma County's first responders, they deserve to be appreciated now more than ever. It's not an exaggeration to say that our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, frontline healthcare workers, you have been so heroic through this pandemic. And even with the virus raging in our community, you put your lives on the line. Your lives on the line every single day without hesitation to care for others, and you remain a crucial part of our recovery. Finally, I want to wish the very best of luck and a speedy recovery to those survivors who are recognizing today. We're thinking about you. We're pulling for you, you and your family. Thank you again for having me. I'm grateful to be able to work with you.
Thank you, Senator Mcguire. And now I'd like to introduce the Chair of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, Linda Hopkins.
On behalf of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, I would like to acknowledge the passion, dedication, and heart that is demonstrated each and every day by our emergency medical services crews and hospitals. We are so grateful that you are there to take care of us, the members of our community, when we are at our worst. And to the members of our community who have experienced these events, to our survivors, I also want to say that we are here for you as you go through rehabilitation and recovery in our community. We are all here, Sonoma County strong, pulling together, and wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that we come together time and time again, no matter what the crisis is, to take care of one another and to pull through together.
Over the 27 plus years that we have been putting on this great event, we've been fortunate enough to have keynote speakers from all walks of life and throughout our community. And this is no exception this year. Today I'd like to introduce to you Dr. David Duncan, the Director of the Emergency Medical Services Authority. Dr. Duncan has a resume and a bio that is extensive, one of the most extensive I've ever seen. Suffice it to say that he has been the medical director for over fire departments, for ambulance, air ambulances. He's also a board certified emergency physician who currently also works in the hospitals. Dr. David Duncan.
Hi and good day, everybody. I'm Dave Duncan. I am the director of the California Emergency Medical Services Authority, better known as EMSA. And EMSA has oversight and coordination responsibilities for California's 911 system. But more importantly here, I am an emergency physician, and I began that journey in 1991. So I am honored and very pleased to have the opportunity to address the Cardiac Arrest Survivors Reunion here today. And although I'm virtual, I think this is centered around Sonoma County. So congratulations to the Sonoma County Survivors Reunion and all its elite members. Certainly an elite club with onerous membership requirements. Not a club we all want to join, but once you're in, there's nowhere else I'm sure you'd rather be. I want to just share 5 minutes my perspective since '91 on cardiac arrest and kind of my observations from high level. It's just been a very interesting trajectory to observe. Back in the early 90s, almost no one survived CPR, cardiac arrest. A dear friend of mine, physician, late 40s, fell on a tennis court, playing tennis, very fit gent, could not be resuscitated. We've taken CPR and resuscitation so much further since that time in the early 90s, where we were certainly less than 3% survival. Heading into 2000, we started realizing that if we were careful and meticulous, trained and educated, we could start making real differences in CPR and cardiac arrest survival. And we started seeing data late 90s, I believe, from cities like Seattle, where they were touting survivals of 10% or greater. And, we were astounded. And in all honesty, we didn't believe them. And lo and behold, they were telling the truth. One study after another demonstrated, and the AHA jumped in and came up with phenomenal data and phenomenal recommendations. And folks like your EMS system up there, Mark Luoto and team, took these things to heart. We're one of the earliest integrators of pit crew CPR and took the AHA recommendations wholeheartedly and integrated them and clearly improved survival in that region. So now here we are moving past 2000 towards 2021. We started seeing the chain of survival and its importance and how amazing survival could be if you not only interlinked and strategically and incrementally took on those links in that chain, but as important to have each and every link well polished, absolutely clearly demarcated, all the details ironed out with your CPR, assuring minimal pauses and all these details that had to be aligned, not only considering the chain as a whole, but each and every link as an individual piece. So for all of you, certainly every link was polished, every link was connected, the system was in place to do the right thing. And we're making huge progress on all these pieces, educating our public. We've got the highest levels of public CPR certification currently, the highest levels of bystander CPR. We've got folks involved in apps that tell us where the closest AEDs are so that the public can get involved in CPR and cardiac arrest resuscitation. All those things are ratcheting up survival, 1% at a time. And we certainly still have a long way to go. Again, I'll tout Seattle. I love their analogy of, grabbing life from the jaws of death, likening cardiac arrest to a shark attack. To me, that's a very real analogy. There aren't many things that remove a human from the planet so suddenly and unexpectedly. And, we have to be ready. We have to have all the pieces in place to be able to intervene immediately. And good CPR is first and foremost. That continues to maintain the brain and heart to a degree that they can survive until more aggressive advanced life support interventions can be had, by those in the ambulance or the emergency department or the cath lab, the ICU, etc. So many pieces to this. So, congratulations on your second round. The acronym YOLO, you only live once, doesn't really apply here. I'm thinking maybe something more like YOLT, you only live twice, might apply well to many of the folks in this group. And I'm sure every minute, every hour, every day that you spend is a celebration, and probably even more so for all those lives you can continue to touch. So again, thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and enjoy that second round of timing here on our fine planet. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. And now I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies, someone who you'll recognize the voice and probably recognize the face for some of you. He is the news director for KZST and several radio stations in the area. He's been involved with the Sonoma County Paramedics Association as our Master of Ceremonies for our event for many years, and someone who maybe a lot of you don't know, but he's also a licensed paramedic. So let me introduce to you now, without further ado, Ted Williams.
Well, thank you, Ken, and welcome, everybody. Glad that you're with us today for the Survivors Reunion for 2021. It's been a long time coming. We sure missed seeing you last year, and this is an odd new format for us to be doing things virtually, but we hope that this is going to be a good time for you to be able to really appreciate what's happened over the past few years with our EMS and our responders and our survivors right here in Sonoma County. Literally, this year, we go to all corners of the county. We go from Healdsburg to down to Petaluma. We go from Sebastopol and we go to Sonoma and kind of everything in between. 5 stories today that are going to be very interesting for you to hear about, and thinking about who's going to be responding to people here in Sonoma County. It's been an amazing journey for myself and all of us that are on the committee, which are all part of the EMS community, for us to be able to really see what's happened here in Sonoma County, how we've grown and what we do, and the amazing amount of hours of training and certifications to get to this point. We represent a very small portion of what actually happens every day here in Sonoma County. There are people working right now as you're watching this that are ready to go at a moment's notice. They may be responding as we are watching right now. And they're also on the job, long hours, and doing amazing work. These 5 stories today are going to be representative of that. And in the future, with more stories as they come along, we like to present them to you. It's good for the survivors, it's good for their families, it's good for the EMS community as well to see what's going on. This presentation today is unlike any we've ever done before in the couple of decades of these survivors reunions. Normally we get together, there's hugs, there's Kleenex, and it's very emotional. We hope that these stories will portray some of that emotion as we come across. So thanks to Bonzel Media for doing a great job of putting this presentation together for us, and our amazing committee too, with the Survivors Reunion Committee and those a part of the Sonoma County Paramedics Association. So if you're ready, I want to start giving these stories to you right now. We're going to start with Matt Milchiori. Now, back in January of 2020, Matt was working out at a gym, but things weren't going so well for him that day. As a matter of fact, he was extremely slow and tired, and that concerned his wife. So let's hear about Matt Milchiori.
My husband was working out this morning and is having chest pains, and then it seems like he's struggling to breathe right now.
Help is already coming, so I need you to take a deep breath and try to be calm for me, okay?
Okay.
So we are sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line. We're going to do some CPR since he said he's barely breathing, okay? So listen carefully. I'll tell you to do chest compressions, okay? So place the heel of your hand on the breastbone. So start counting out loud now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
They're here. They're here. They're inside.
Are they with him?
They're inside helping right now.
You did a good job, okay?
Thank you.
That was some portions of the 911 call between Matt's wife, Sherry, and dispatcher Forrest Neal Grant. The 49ers were playing well, with fans excited about the possibility of going to the Super Bowl. On January 20th, Monday Night Football, they're into the playoffs, and all eyes were on the team, including Matt Milchiori of Windsor. Matt's the CFO of Vince Siegel Electric Company, and he and his wife Sherry have lived in Windsor for about 20 years and are big Niners fans. That game was the last real memory Matt has until weeks later. Now, the next day, Matt and Sherry went to the gym for their regular workout. Matt said he was going about 4 times a week, and at that point, he was working out pretty hard up until that day. But on that Tuesday, January 21st, the gym's owner told Sherry that Matt didn't look quite right while he was pushing a sled across the floor. She told Sherry that she should probably take Matt home. Matt was a little dazed as he sat in the car, and when they got home, he sat down. The situation got worse. Sherry could hear him breathing strongly and strangely, so she called 911. As 911 dispatcher Forrest Neal Grant heard Sherry's description of Matt's condition, he told Sherry to get Matt off the couch and onto the floor. Matt had gone into cardiac arrest, and Sherry quickly began CPR. Within a few minutes, fire personnel arrived and were surprised to see the situation was much more serious than the call out for just difficulty breathing. Sonoma County Fire Crew Captain Neil Nicholson, engineer Randy White, and firefighters Andrew Kiefer and Matthew Colgrove took over CPR while the paramedic ambulance was en route to Matt and Sherry's home. When the Bell's ambulance medic 683 arrived, paramedic Tricia Kress and EMT Justin McCabe attached the cardiac monitor and found Matt to be in ventricular tachycardia with no pulse. CPR continued while an IV was established to begin providing fluids and medications, and an advanced airway was inserted. Matt received 6 shocks total and the entire protocol of medications and treatment, but Tricia said she would not give up. Before they left the house, paramedic Kress began external pacing to maintain that faint but present blood pressure that she had reestablished. After the ambulance left the house, the fire crew stayed behind to help clean up the area in the house where they had been and talked with the family about what's happening. Meanwhile, in the back of the ambulance, paramedic Kress cared for Matt, who was now semi-conscious, but his heart still needed stimulation from the external pacing, plus medications and oxygen, as well as monitoring his vital signs. She radioed into the hospital with advanced information before arrival to give details of what they were to expect in the next few minutes. In the emergency room at Sutter Regional Medical Center, Dr. John Lewin, nurses Sarah Bowen and Gina Mitchell, and EMT Ski Saunders quickly evaluated Matt's condition and then sent him to the cardiac cath lab, where he received a stent in one of his major arteries. Over the next week, he continued to improve. After Matt was discharged from the hospital, he realized just how much time had gone by, because now he was home just in time to see the Super Bowl. Matt's outcome was better than the Niners that day. He and Sherry wanted to stop by and thank everyone who had helped him weeks earlier, and that they've been able to meet a few of the people that they say truly were awesome. In the ICU, nurses would explain everything about his condition, and it would inspire Matt to do whatever was needed to recover. I had a chance to talk with Matt and Sherry just a few days ago, and let's listen and watch that interview right now. Well, great to be with you as we get a chance to meet these survivors that are a part of our program tonight. And we're starting off with from our first story that you just heard, Matt Milchiori, his wife Sherry as well. And it's time to bring them on, and we'll talk just a little bit. And welcome to the Survivors Reunion program tonight. I'm so glad that we get a chance to share your story, Matt and Sherry. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you for having us.
You know, it's interesting. We had a chance to talk a little bit, a couple of weeks ago, and just to get the story kind of put together. And I love the way your story goes. You're totally into the Niners. You're totally into working out, and you kind of went from one end of the 49er spectrum to the other, completely unconscious. It's a very odd way of storing it, putting it together. What do you remember from beforehand?
So I think I followed on through, went to the playoffs, and then ended up on, bailing out at the end.
Yeah. Well, what do you remember about the, kind of leading up to your event, your heart attack? What do you remember kind of in the workout stages and things? How were you doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, my wife would probably have to speak to what actually happened better than I can, because to be honest, I don't remember. The last thing I remember, and that's why this came up, is I remember watching the 49ers win the playoff game the night before. The next morning, I got up, went to the gym, was working out, pushing sleds and doing other stuff. And apparently I was kind of out of it and started holding my chest and acting a little weird. And they sent me home. My wife, took me home in the car. I guess I was very out of it, didn't say anything, just kind of stumbled into the house, sat down, and basically went into cardiac arrest. So to be honest, I don't remember much of anything. It's what I was told. So, I mean, I can let Sherry speak a little bit to how that event actually went.
Yeah. Now, Sherry, I know that you've taken CPR class before, and you've worked with the school system in Windsor for a number of years. But you probably never expected to actually put it into action, especially on your own husband. What was like running through your mind at that moment when you started to help him?
Well, I kind of shocked myself how quickly I went into action. Usually in situations like that, I'm kind of a freezer. But I made sure I grabbed our home landline and I called 911 from there. And I must have just been like intuition that I knew that if I called from my cell phone, it wouldn't have given me our local 911. So I called 911 and I didn't really even know what was happening with Matt, and the dispatcher picked up and I was like, he was making weird noises, and he said, I want you to make sure that he's, on a flat surface and start CPR. And I just remember from all the classes that I took what to do. And the dispatcher was fabulous at keeping me calm and helping me keep count, because that's, in a situation like that, it was kind of difficult to remember counting and staying on beat. I
imagine it kind of seemed a little surreal at the time anyway. It probably went by like a haze. And then first responders came, then Matt took you to the hospital, and then you were there as well, Sherry helping out and being alongside him. Man, what do you remember, like what's the first kind of memory of coming back and being in the hospital? Do you remember kind of your first thoughts when you woke up?
Yeah. So I woke up, and and it's funny because I think they were taking bets on what I might say when I woke up, and I think I did that. It was pretty much what happened to me, I remember, though, to be honest, I was I was scared. I didn't know how I ended up, where I ended up, and why I was there. And although everyone was really good at explaining to me eventually what happened, the first thing that kind of came out of their mouth when I was waking up was, "Hey, you have pneumonia," and stuff. So I was just laying there kind of waking up going, I'm in the hospital, passed out, I had pneumonia. How do you get here from that? So things were going through my head, which I never thought I would think. I was like, did I try to it was wintertime, it was cold. So I was like, looking back, I didn't really grasp how you get pneumonia. I was like, did I jump in the Russian River and try to kill myself? I was like, how did this happen? Did I crash off the side of a cliff? I'm like, can't grasp it until finally they told me. So when I woke up, it was pretty shocking. I had no clue what had happened or why I was there. Eventually they started explaining everything. I saw my family, talked to them, and became apparent, what happened. They started throwing back, kind of telling me what I'd done, where I'd been. I went to the gym, came home, and all this stuff happened. And what started to become funny, or not funny, but I guess when I was coming in and out of kind of consciousness at the hospital, people had come to visit me, and one was a priest that I hadn't seen since I was little. I guess my dad got in touch with him and had him come out to see me. But I remember, and I thought it was just a dream, but I remember hearing his voice while I was passed out and thinking to myself, why do I hear this voice? I must be dead, and I'm not dead. So, in my head, I go, this voice should not be here. But I'm not dead, and I don't know how to say that. And so that's kind of a memory I have from that. But waking up, it was pretty traumatic. What was great was seeing how, I'll tell you, for me, because I don't remember the situation, and it was a lot more traumatic on my wife and my family and the people involved, because my memory of it was nil, was to see how well all the first responders, all the nurses at the hospital, the doctors, anyone that came in, treated them with respect, helped explain things to them about what was going on. And it really made me feel good as someone that, had no control over the situation, couldn't do anything, to know that those people were there for them. Even if, let's say, I didn't wake up and it never came around, they went above and beyond. To find out that even the fire department came and they got me to the paramedics and got me out. They helped my wife organize the situation in the house and what happened to me, and kind of get straightened up, and then actually took her and got her to the hospital in the fire truck. So she got she was able to complete one of her lifelong dreams of riding in a fire truck and made it to the
Everybody's
hospital.
dream, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
maybe not in that situation.
You get a chance first. Yeah. So for all those people who started from the very beginning, and of course you're starting with the one right next to you there that you can say thank you to, but then to all the others that you didn't get a chance to see, that you'll eventually get a chance to get to know, and they'll be lifelong buddies for you. What would you like to say to all the people who worked tirelessly, the long hours and all, to get you where you are sitting there in your living room comfortable right now?
It's hard to really put into words, to be honest. Thank you doesn't do it. It's more than deserved. I appreciate and can't believe that how you guys fight for someone that has no ability to fight back or to help themselves. I mean, helping someone that can't help themselves is just amazing. And what you guys do, you know, like while you're working on me to support her, support my kids in that time was, I can't thank you enough. I mean, that is probably the best thing for me, at least, is to know that, you know, you guys, they were being taken care of as much as I was being taken care of. I appreciate it. And I'm really sad I was not, you know, COVID came around and I was not able to check in with everybody and say thank you. The 911 dispatcher, the paramedics I missed at the hospital, unfortunately. I got to see the fire department crew. That was great. But I would love to see all the nurses and doctors and even the respiratory therapists that I, you know, did not enjoy, but saved my life. I'd like to say thank you to all of you guys. Thank you.
I tell you, it's an amazing thing to be able to tell the story, and it's such a nice story to tell because it has such a good happy ending. Here you are, and life is good. So thank you for letting us share your story and try to reunite you a bit in a virtual way with your responders and everyone involved, and now life is a little bit better now. So thanks for letting us tell your story and be with you today.
Yeah, I was to tell you, at the hospital, it was great. I mean, the thing that motivated me the most was I was laying in bed, and I can remember the nurses talking to me, and I saw this old guy walking by outside, and I remember thinking, if he can do it, I can get back out there. I can get up and walk, because I was surprised at how I had to relearn how to walk. I mean, it was rough, but I was like, if look at that guy out there, I can do this. So. And they were all supportive. I'll say the nurses, the one thing I really appreciated a whole lot, they made any little accomplishment seem like the biggest accomplishment in the world. And it made it easier to get better. So.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thank you both. Really appreciate your time today and enjoy the rest of the program.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for sharing your life with us and allowing us to see a little bit of a very emotional time in your lives. I've got another story coming up in just a couple of moments, but right now I want to hear from one of our presenting sponsors.
Hi, I'm Brian Henriksen, Regional Director for American Medical Response in Sonoma County. AMR has been providing 911 ambulance services in Sonoma County for the last 3 decades. We're so excited about this event today, getting the opportunity to recognize first responders, our employees, and the heroes that go out there every day to care for our community. A special shout out to the AMR Sonoma Life Support staff and the REDCOM team that work tirelessly every day to care for this community. It's been a trying few years in Sonoma County, and in the last year has been especially hard through the pandemic. We think that this recognition is so important for our team and for the other responders in this community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark, aka Dr. LaGrave. I'm a Kaiser Permanente emergency physician at Santa Rosa. I'm also the medical director for the Santa Rosa Junior College Paramedic Program. Kaiser Permanente is happy to be involved with the Survivors Reunion and support EMS Week. So many great things happening in our county and in this area. One of the things that makes Sonoma County special is the absolutely amazing public safety system that we have. Whether it's law enforcement, fire, EMS, our administrators, our dispatchers, or educators, or the hospitals and emergency departments that round out our emergency medical services, Sonoma County truly is a publicly safety special place. I could go on and offer my shout outs to many people, but I'd like to focus on just a couple. The first one is for the committee that runs the Survivors Reunion. The talent and energy that's exemplified in that committee shows just what kind of people are involved with EMS and public safety in the county. Thanks for all you do. The next one is the Santa Rosa Junior College Paramedic Program. The path to paramedic is a difficult one. You're our future, so keep up the great work. And lastly is my home shop. That's the emergency department at Kaiser Santa Rosa. I'm humbled and honored every day to be there and watch the amazing physicians and all the excellent personnel that helped to make that emergency department great. Thank you for supporting me, our patients, and for all you do. To everyone in Sonoma County and beyond, happy EMS week and thank you.
Welcome back. Our next story is about a guy who runs marathons on one day, but on another day, completely different story. Cardiac arrest.
Fire medical dispatch.
And it's my husband. He's not breathing.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know. I was in the other room and I heard him like grunting, and I came in and he's like all stretched out and he's stiff and his face is blue. Please hurry.
Ma'am, they're on their way. Is he breathing, ma'am?
I don't think so anymore.
Okay.
Please hurry.
Ma'am, they're coming. Okay, I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line, okay? Ma'am?
Yes?
Is he breathing?
No.
Okay. All right, listen carefully. I'll tell you how to do chest compressions, okay? Make sure he's flat on his back. Okay, I want you to pump the chest hard and fast, at least twice per second and 2 inches deep. Let the chest come all the way up in between pumps. We're going to do this until help can take over. Count out loud so I can count with you, okay? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
That was a part of the 911 call with dispatcher Elizabeth Mokel talking with Terry Boske's wife, Kristen. Now, Terry was a very active runner, participating in half marathons every year. He'd been feeling so well on this day 13 months ago as he returned home from a run that he said he was in the best shape of his life. And then he had some strange sensations, and he told his wife, Kristen, that he felt some tingling in his left arm, and he went upstairs to rest. Kristen heard a strange noise and went upstairs to check on him and saw Terry on the floor in the shower, blue and unresponsive. She immediately called 911 from their home phone landline. Dispatcher Elizabeth Mokel verified their address and said responders were on the way and gave instructions on how to do CPR chest compressions, which Kristen began performing. When Petaluma Fire arrived at the door, Kristen had to leave Terry and unlock the door and then race back upstairs to Terry's side. The Petaluma Fire Department personnel responded to Terry and they took over care. Paramedic Kurt Jones, along with Captain Brian Morgan, James Swicer, James Gallus, Kevin Burris, and Dale Keithley assessed Terry and discovered there was no breathing and no pulse. So they dried him off, resumed CPR, and attached the cardiac monitor. Terry was in ventricular fibrillation. So CPR was paused and he was given a shock, and then more CPR and medications through an interosseous access in Terry's leg just below the knee. After a few more minutes of CPR and meds, Terry's pulse had returned and the crew was able to move him to the gurney and then into the ambulance for a Code 3 ride to Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital. Along the way, Terry's heartbeat and breathing improved. Now, inside the ER, Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital, Terry was still unconscious and being ventilated through a breathing tube. He was evaluated by Dr. Jim Dahl, nurse Neil Sandlin, and respiratory tech Lindsay Lawson, then prepped to go into the cardiac cath lab where he received 3 cardiac stents. Terry was then put into an induced coma and moved to the ICU to recover and strengthen before being released to return home. I had a chance to talk with Terry just a couple of weeks ago. Now it's time to take a look at that interview. Great to have a chance to talk with Terry Boske of Petaluma about his event. And Terry, welcome to the Survivors Reunion. And we just talked about your story. We just talked about the event of your life, but you had quite an adventure there. Do you remember much of it?
Thanks for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity to say thank you to so many people and hopefully be able to maybe see them someday. But I don't have any memories of the heart attack and anything for the first probably 2 to 3 weeks in the hospital. The last memories I had were I was decided to go for a run instead of have lunch and ran extra long, felt even better when I finished the run and literally said, I think I'm in the best shape of my life. And it was probably the worst thing I could have said, huh?
Oh yeah.
Came upstairs.
Kind of ironic,
I guess
set yourself up there.
Didn't I? And I came upstairs and my wife said, you've been running. I think you ought to shower. You're not as pleasant to be around as you think. So I I went off to the shower and woke up 3 weeks later in the hospital, confused and not sure exactly what the heck happened. It took me quite a while to believe that somebody was telling me what happened.
Yeah, especially being a marathon runner like you've been a competitive runner, you're an active guy, you're a pharmaceutical rep that goes all over the place, you have a wide territory, you're on the go all the time. And then to all of a sudden be in a hospital for weeks, I'm sure it was a little hard to get your mind to catch up with what all had happened.
Right. I didn't quite understand what was going on. And the thing that struck me was I never saw people's faces. Every nurse, every doctor, every orderly, everybody. All I saw were eyeballs. And it was very unsettling to not see people's mouths move and have any connection. And they kept coming in like, "Oh, good to see you again, Terry." And I'm like, "Well, you all look the same to me, so I couldn't reciprocate with it's good to see you again, because you look like the last 40 people that's walked into this room, because all you see is that much space."
What did you think when you found out that it was your wife who did CPR on you to get the whole event started?
That's a great question. I was stunned. My wife and I often joked about the fact that, how would each of us react in a life-threatening situation, or mostly it's the earthquake when it happens. What are we going to do? And she says, "I'm such a mess. I'm that person that you see that just stands and freezes, and I don't do anything. I don't do anything positive or negative. I just stand still and let chaos run around me." And she goes, "I'm that person that you see on the videos of earthquakes, and they're standing in the middle of the room and everybody's scrambling and I'm standing still." And I said, "Well, that doesn't make me feel like you're going to be able to save me if I have a heart attack or something, get hit by a bus or something." And she said, "I'm sorry, this is what you got. I'm not going to be able to help you." And yet she said she had this odd feeling that something was wrong. She goes, "That was an odd sound I just heard. I'm going to go look and see." And she found me on the floor, blue and not responsive. And
it's interesting. We heard that 911 call, where she called and took care of you at the same time, which is just huge. And so that started the ball rolling, and a lot of people were involved, and if you've been able to see and get to know these different names that are now associated with you, the eyeballs, the people behind those eyeballs. If you have just a chance to just take a moment and express what you'd like to express to all the people involved, from your wife all the way through your recovery, what would you like to say to everybody?
Sorry. For me, all I can say is I will do everything I can to try to thank them by paying it forward. Sorry, I'm going to just try to pay things forward and just be happier with what I have and with my family and friends, and just enjoy every day and not try to say that I've got to pay them back in some way. I've kind of let that go. And it's more of just try to live life happier, less stressful, don't be so critical, and just live better in terms of how I act around others and how I react to things, and just realize that I've been given a second chance. And that's like the only way I think I could thank them is to act differently than I had before, and to be more present and more kind and more patient to others. If that's the only way I can think to save them or to say thank you to them.
That's great, Terry. I want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us.
I would love to be able to thank each one individually, but there was so many people, and the ones that the obvious ones are the first responders and the firefighters and the hospital emergency and the surgeons and all that. But I also remember it takes everybody, the pharmacist, by getting all my meds, even when they set medicine for me after hours for me, and people who are making sure the paperwork is right and he should be here and he can do it's just everybody who did more than you think. You don't realize how many hands were involved. It wasn't just the ones that were holding me, it was everyone else.
Well, it's an honor to tell your story today, and I know it's okay. It's an emotional event, and recalling it is, I know it's tough, and you have so many people to eventually give a hug to. Thanks for letting us tell your story today.
I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you to everyone. You are not forgotten.
Thank you, Terry, for that insight about your life. We wish you well from here on out. We've got another one of our stories on the way for you in just a moment. Right now, let's hear from one of our valued sponsors to help put this program on.
Hi, I'm Eric Freed, Vice President of Strategic Operations for Reach Air Medical Holdings, and we're very excited to be a sponsor for the 2021 Survivors Reunion. A few weeks ago, while I was out getting my car worked on, I was talking to a very nice lady who saw my mask that I was wearing, and on it I had Reach. It was branded as Reach. She got very excited and said, "Wow, you saved my grandchild's life." And I said, "Well, really, tell me the story." And she said, "Well, he was climbing the tree in the backyard. He was pretty high up. His mom went to get him out of the tree. He fell down and hit his head right on top of a rock. At that time, we called 911, and the ambulance came, and we started to see everything that went on. Subsequently, your aircraft flew him right to the OR at Children's Hospital in Oakland. And the doctor said at that time, if you hadn't have brought him here as quick as you did, he probably would have died due to his head injury." Stories like that really shows the value in what we do every day in EMS. It's a blessing to be able to help all these different folks that we do when these different things can happen out in the field. I will tell you that it wouldn't have happened without the help of all of our different EMS partners, whether it be the dispatchers, the paramedics and EMTs on the scene, the fire service, often police, and many other first responders that are there to help us and make sure that our air operations are safe. I want to say, number one, happy EMS week to all the different providers out there that do their work day in and day out tirelessly to make sure we're helping the citizens of our community. I would also like to say to our staff, thank you for everything you do, from our paramedics, nurses, maintenance staff, pilots, transfer center staff, communication specialists. What you do to make the chain of survival is like no other. You're the kind of people that make sure that we're able to help and give the right care to all of our patients and all of our different customers day in and day out. Thank you so much for what you do. I hope all of you have a great Survivors Day, and thank you so much for everything you do day in and day out to take care of our patients and customers.
Welcome back. Thanks for being with us today with the 2021 Survivors Reunion. Our next story is about a gentleman who's an engineer who's created some very interesting products being built right here in Sonoma County. While he was visiting the plant where they were assembling those pieces, things went sour for him and he ended up collapsing in cardiac arrest. Let's hear the story about Rob Prothero. On March 4th of 2019, our next survivor, Rob Prothero, was visiting an assembly plant where the workers were building one of his products. While he was in the warehouse, he mentioned to those that were with him that he felt dizzy and he collapsed to the floor. One of the workers in the building was trained in CPR and first aid skills. He ran over to check on Rob's condition. And he recognized the signs of cardiac arrest, yelled for someone to call 911, then began CPR. Dispatcher Rachel Stice put out the alert to Healdsburg Fire Department and Bell's ambulance. As it turns out, Healdsburg Fire Department Division Chief Linda Collister and Fire Inspector Ruben Mondahano were nearby performing an inspection, so they responded quickly. At the same time, off-duty engineer Brian Crabb arrived and took over CPR while Ruben retrieved the medication bag and the AED. Soon, Engine 6381 was on scene with Captain Gerald Williams, engineer Blake Ratto, and firefighter Justin Potter. They continued CPR and oxygen administration. When Bell's ambulance 681 arrived, paramedic Tyler Mason and EMT Sapphire Alvarez attached the cardiac monitor and saw that Rob was in pulseless ventricular tachycardia. They resumed CPR and gave Rob the first of several defibrillation shocks, as well as starting interosseous access for fluids and medications and advanced airway. After more CPR and a fourth shock, Rob's heart returned to a working rhythm, and he was now semi-conscious as the crew loaded him into the ambulance for the Code 3 transport to the hospital. When they arrived at Sutter Regional Medical Center, Rob was moving his arms and legs, but still unresponsive to words from paramedic Mason. He was brought into the hospital where the ER team took over care. Dr. Stephen Caddy, along with RNs Amanda Fensky, Jane Carpenter, and EMT Ski Saunders, monitored Rob's vital signs and cardiac changes and blood chemistry. He was making steady improvement, except for his breathing, so the decision was made to induce a controlled coma and put a breathing tube into his lungs. After 2 days, the breathing tube was removed, and he began a process of recovery until he was ready to be discharged for home. I talked with Rob a few days ago, and here's that conversation.
You haven't had much of a chance to talk to the people who were a part of helping you out. What would you like to say to those folks?
Thank you very much. You know, I think it all just comes down to luck that I survived, and I was lucky that they were around and I was near them, and I'm very grateful for all that.
I know there's a lot of folks that have been looking forward to hearing from you and reading the story and hearing the story. And now that you reflect back on it a little bit, how is life changing for you since this all took place?
Oh, I think I'm a little healthier now. You know, I've stopped whatever bad habits I had before that could aggravate my heart, like drinking coffee and beer and things like that. Probably a cleaner individual from that perspective of what I put into my body.
That's great. And how do you value life now compared to maybe the way you kind of grew up and now you've gone through this whole event? Has that changed the way that you think about life in general?
You know, I think maybe soon after it happened and I realized that I had recovered, thanks to everybody's great efforts, but then you kind of slide back into your old ways. And I've just resumed life as usual.
Does that feel kind of good to kind of get back to normal in a sense for the way that you've always lived life?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And, you know, it's nice that I have minimal complications from the event so that, you know, I'm not on crutches or a cane or anything like that. Still have full use of my body and faculties, so that's great.
And what do you think about when you see a fire engine go by, when you see an ambulance go by? Does it affect you in a different way than it used to?
It makes my dog howl when he goes by. But, yeah, you know, it's good to know those people are out there and that they're well-trained and ready to pounce on you if you need it.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you letting us know how you feel about the responders that are out there. Isn't it amazing when you listen to these stories just how emotional it gets when people realize the life-changing, life-saving skills and abilities that these responders really provide for the community. We appreciate all of you. Another story on the way in just a couple of moments. Right now, another one of our sponsors that we value so much and thank for helping make this program possible.
Hello, I'm Tyler Hedden, Chief Executive for Providence, Sonoma County. I wanted to thank you for being a part of the event tonight, honoring our survivors in the community. Also, I wanted to thank you for all the great work that we've done throughout this year of COVID. All the doctors, nurses, EMTs, paramedics, and first responders have done a fantastic job responding to the call of our times. You've selflessly put yourself out there every single day, ensuring that you're taking care of the greater good of our community. At Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital, we're the Level 2 Trauma Center for Sonoma County. We see over 300 ST-elevated MIs every single year. We know that you all take care of those patients out in the field a lot of times before they get to us. And we appreciate all the skill and compassion and caring that takes in order for them to come to our hospital and for us to take care of them. Again, I wanted to thank you all for what you do in our community every day, saving lives and ensuring that our community can live life to the fullest.
Our fourth story for you today is about a woman who went shopping, which sounds like a great adventure, and turned out to be a bad adventure. She went into cardiac arrest in a store in Sonoma. On a warm August afternoon in the town of Sonoma, a leisurely clothes shopping event turned into a nearly deadly event. Our next survivor is Ann Young, who was in the Sonoma Plaza on a busy day, but happened to find a parking place right in front of one of her favorite stores. She went inside and talked with Angela from the store and then began browsing. Angela said later that she had seen Ann near one of the counters, and then Ann was suddenly having a hard time breathing. She collapsed onto the floor of the store, and Angela called 911. When Sonoma Valley Fire Department arrived, they found no one doing CPR, so paramedics Nate Sussex and Robert Keegan checked for breathing and a pulse, but there was none to be found. So they began chest compressions while attaching the cardiac monitor leads. The monitor showed ventricular fibrillation, so a shock was given, but no return of pulses. So more CPR and an IV was established to give fluids and medications. And after 2 minutes, Ann's heart was now in ventricular tachycardia, so she was shocked again, which brought back a weak pulse. She was being prepared for transport when she went back into pulseless VTAC and was shocked again. This time, her heart regained a workable rhythm. She was loaded into the ambulance for a Code 3 transport to Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa. Along the way, paramedic Keegan performed a cardioversion to stop the persistent VTAC, but kept that blood pressure and pulse. Over 25 minutes of constant monitoring, defibrillation, fluids, medications, oxygen, all administered as they arrived at the entrance to the emergency department of the hospital. Ann was evaluated and then transferred to the cardiac cath lab for more assessment, then on to the ICU for a couple of days when she improved well enough to return home. I had a chance to talk with Ann just a couple of days ago, and let's watch that interview right now. Well, it was nice to get a chance to talk with Ann Young just a little bit ago, and I want to share that conversation with you right now. Ann is someone who is kind of one of those sparkles that I like to see in our survivors reunion. Someone who had a really unfortunate circumstance on a day that was probably one that she never anticipated, something like this. Ann, thanks for spending some time with us to go over a little bit about what was happening in your background and your story.
Well, it's really my pleasure, because that was the part of this whole situation that just felt empty, because I couldn't thank anyone for all that they had done. My family was wonderful, but I didn't know anything about any of it. It was all filled in by friends and family and doctors. And that was the one thing. We went over to the firehouse afterwards, after I was much better. And they were out on a call or something, so I never did get to meet them. So this is very special for me.
I'm really glad. We did the story about it, and everyone just heard it, and you saw it as well, where we talked about what was going on as you went in to do a little shopping there in Sonoma. Is that an area that you go to quite a bit? Do you love the downtown area of Sonoma?
Yep, I try to do all my shopping in the square if I can. Yeah, and it was just one of those late afternoons, and I wasn't planning on shopping, but there was a parking place right in front of one of my favorite dress shops. So I went in there, and that's all she wrote. I knew nothing about what happened, but
wow,
there was, and I had just come off of Arnold Drive and Leveroni Road, and so I was so thankful later on that it had happened where it did. And is it Angelina, and who was the lady in the dress shop, and she's a friend of the person from the firehouse. She knew exactly what to do quickly, and so everybody worked together. And that's this is what I've been told.
So from that kind of short and cut off memory at that point of what was going on at the dress shop and things like that, all these different things kind of took place to save you.
Yeah, because I don't
what do you remember coming out of it on the other end of it?
Do I remember?
What do you remember, like maybe at the hospital? What do you remember? What's the first thing you think you can recall that happened that it made you realize something happened to you?
maybe petting my daughter's dog, or when she brought me a pretty new robe and was helping me put it on. I don't, and the room was all full of friends and family and dogs. And I don't remember anything for how long? Yeah. Quite a few days. Yeah. But it all came together quite nicely after I woke up, and they wanted me to get up and so forth. And then they started filling me in on what happened.
Wow. Well, how has life changed for you because of this? Once you've, kind of gotten back and you've gotten through some, readjusting and things, has your life changed because of this event?
Well, it's kind of quiet because of other events, but well, it's just everything is very important. My friends and my family and so forth, everyone's very important. And I think I'm a little more patient. I'll have to ask my husband that. But I just am very thankful for each thing that comes up each day, and I don't take anything for granted, So.
Oh, yeah. That's very special. Let's talk about some of those people that came to your rescue. Now that you have a chance to really talk to them, and eventually you'll get to meet them in person, when you kind of think about it from the friend in the dress shop all the way through to really save your life, now that you have the floor and the opportunity here to be able to say something to them, take your time, and what would you like to say to them right now?
Well, I hope I don't cry, because I'm just, I would love to meet them. I hope I get to see them and just tell them thank you for what they did for me, and thank you for what you probably do almost every day for other folks. It's just unbelievable. And I have great admiration, and I don't know how to thank you, because it was just so marvelous that you were there and stayed with me and had me stay with you. So thank you just seems like such awesome. A thing to say. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad that we get a chance to tell your story and to be able to reintroduce them to you, at least in virtual form this time. Maybe you'll have a chance to actually meet them in person sometime soon. That'd be good. But I wish you well with the rest of your life, and I'm glad that we could share your story, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the program here and realize that you're not alone. There are other people who actually go through similar circumstances, and they get to celebrate another day. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I love you all.
Thank you, and we really appreciate your time, and of course we really appreciate your story as well, and we wish you well in your continued recovery. We have another story on the way in just a moment, our final one for this program. And again, we'd sure like to say thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. Let's hear from one right now.
Hi there, I'm Dan Peterson, the CEO of Sutter Santa Rosa Regional Hospital. I'm so grateful to be here with you today for this incredible event. On behalf of our organization and our team members, I want to tell you how grateful we are for each and every one of you for the work that you do day in and day out. We're grateful to be a part of the healthcare delivery system here in Sonoma County, and we're grateful to be a part of the community, for the great community members that support all of us. So thank you to each and every one of you for the role that you play in making Sonoma County great.
Welcome back. Our final story takes place on December 17th of last year. Survivor Wesley Kilgore wasn't feeling very well that day, and he had complained to his wife that he had indigestion and just was going to go upstairs and take a rest. But everything turned worse after that. On the morning of December 17th of last year, survivor Wesley Kilgore was home, but not feeling well. He had complained to his wife Marty that he had indigestion all morning, but that day it was especially bad. Wesley told Marty he thought a warm bath would make him feel better, so he went into the bathroom and started running the water. A couple of minutes later, Marty heard a loud thump, but thought it might have been their grandkids playing. She decided to go into the bathroom and ask Wesley if he heard it too, but Marty found Wesley unresponsive. She called for her son-in-law to come and help get him out of the water and onto the floor and to call 911. Marty had been a career nurse at Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital, so she knew exactly what to do. She began chest compressions hard and fast. At one point, she saw Wesley move his arms and make sounds, but he continued to remain unresponsive. She knew he had oxygen in his blood, so she did the compressions to get that blood moving. Sebastopol Police Sergeant Cameron Fensky and Officer Ethan Stockton, along with the crew of Sebastopol Fire Department, arrived, and they took over CPR, moving him into the living room so they'd have more room to work. Firefighters Alex Roa, Sandy Satyadanata, Nate Dunn, Christian Garcia, and Henry Moore performed CPR, moved furniture out of the way, and collected information about Wesley. When the American Medical Response Ambulance arrived, Marty was relieved to see her longtime friend, paramedic Brad Silvestro, along with his ambulance partner, EMT Jack Bagnoli. Paramedic Silvestro attached the cardiac monitor. It showed ventricular fibrillation, so a shock was administered, which worked to restore Wesley's heart rhythm and respirations, assisted by oxygen with a bag valve mask. Unfortunately, he went back into VFib and was defibrillated again, which revived his heartbeat and breathing. After allowing his heart to stabilize for a few minutes, Wesley was moved to the gurney and loaded into the ambulance for a Code 3 transport to Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital. Along the way, he was evaluated for his heart rhythm and changes and mental status. Wesley was becoming conscious but very confused. Once Wesley was moved to the ER at Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital, he was making sounds and would say his name, but he was far from fully conscious. Dr. Christina Goodwin and nurse Alyssa Arthur assessed the progress that Wesley was making. They performed an angiography, and they determined that Wesley needed to go to the cardiac cath lab for stents to be placed. While in the procedure, Wesley again went into cardiac arrest and revived twice. Eventually, he was allowed to return home to complete his recovery. Let's take a look at that interview that I did with Wesley and his wife Marty just a few days ago.
Well, so glad to have an opportunity to tell stories today. And this has been an amazing time to be able to hear everybody's stories. And right now, I'm going to introduce to you Wesley Kilgore and his wife Marty, and about their story today. And we're looking back just about 6 months ago or so, folks. Things were completely different. And what a time it's been for you since that time. Welcome to this and the Survivors Reunion of 2021. And I'm sure that this is going to be kind of an unusual situation for you now, talking about it this way. I wish we could do it in person, but we're doing it virtually today. As you look back back in December here, what do you remember about this, Wesley? What do you remember about this, Marty? What was kind of going on? It was a noisy house, I would imagine, full of kids and grandkids.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about having a heart attack. The first thing I remember was a bunch of people standing around me, and I was naked. And I didn't know any of the people. And that was pretty weird.
That's a rude awakening, yeah.
Yeah, and
Marty, you were right there and helping.
Yeah, I couldn't walk. And I couldn't control any of my bowels or anything like that. And but I had a sense of humor, and I felt love. Those are the things that I felt when I first came back. But I don't remember any long tunnel or any bright lights or anything, because I don't think I was gone that long.
No.
Yeah, as far as you know, you weren't gone that long, but you were gone for a little while there. Marty, I got to make sure that everybody understands that you're a former emergency room manager, you're a nurse for years
just a nurse.
at different hospitals.
Not a manager, just a nurse.
Not a manager, nurse. You might as well. You managed situations in that sense. So here you are now in the situation where you're looking at it from the other perspective. Now you are in the driver's seat, helping out somebody that's a loved one, and now you're waiting for emergency help to get there. What was going through your mind through that whole time?
All I could think was I was irritated with the poor woman on 911, irritated with her, and I just was hoping they'd get the paramedics would get here soon. And it was like automatic. Really, it was just an automatic response. My very first reaction when I saw him was, oh no, what am I going to do? And that lasted about 5 seconds. And then we called my son. We got him laying on the floor, and I started CPR, and he responded. I mean, he made noises and he moved. So I was just worried anything that would interrupt that CPR, just, compressions only. And
Yeah. And
boy,
that was important. You did a good job.
yeah, we were lucky.
Yeah.
Because I've witnessed so many other people going through that, and it doesn't always have a happy ending. So.
Well, now that you look at it from the other side of it now, you've accomplished it, you did it. How do you feel about medical responders now?
Well, I was very lucky that the paramedic was somebody I'd known for like 40 years almost, actually. And I trusted him because I'd been to other codes with him as a nurse. And it just cemented what a great job that, the pre-hospital people do. It was wonderful. And the police and the fire, I wasn't aware then of the different agencies, but you've cleared it up for me since. But everybody was very respectful and very nice. And that was important for me. And I think they all helped to make my grandkids not afraid. It went really well, a minimum of fuss. So
when you tell people the story about what happened back in December of 2020. Yeah. So, just 6 months ago or so, what do you do? How do you tell people about this story? What do you say to them?
Me, I say that I died 3 times and came back, and it was really hard, and I went through a lot of changes behind it, and a lot of really cool people helped me, and I felt really grateful that they would even take the time to help me out like that, and I didn't know what to say, but I felt, part of it was I was hallucinating, and I was seeing things that I don't think were there. Like I saw letters on Marty's sweater.
Yeah.
I saw entities in the hospital that maybe they weren't there, or maybe they were there. I don't know now. But I felt healing. I felt a lot of healing happening. So that was really cool, and I didn't really feel afraid. That was weird. The fear, I guess, I don't know where it went, but I just felt like really, really grateful that people were willing to help me, and I just made up my mind that I was gonna walk, no matter what. Because I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand up for more than, I think it was 20 seconds when I got to the rehabilitation center. And I couldn't control my bowels or anything. And today I can walk, and everything's working good. It's like I'm about 95%.
That's really amazing.
That's a miracle. That's a miracle. And, the people that work at that hospital are really nice. They treated me really good, and I was grateful for that.
They let me, it's in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and when our numbers were pretty much at the highest, but December to February, and maybe they got higher later, but they were high then, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and so people weren't allowed to visit. But one of the nurses talked to her charge nurse, and when they saw that I had, the day he was in ICU for a day, and then when he got transferred to another unit, to the step-down unit, they saw that I had done CPR and revived him, and that I'd been a nurse. And they told me that I could visit. And then I had to go back and visit one more time to learn from physical therapy. So I was really fortunate. I know not everybody has that possibility. But so I was really grateful for that, because I know that they didn't need to do that. That was very special. But when I sat in his room and he told me that he saw movies on my chest, I was like, oh no.
Well, that
And
is
the only
something else.
the only
Well,
pain
Yeah.
the only pain I had was where Marty hit me in the chest.
If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't work.
she hit you good over and over
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. And here you are at this opportunity right now, and all the people that you haven't had a chance to really get to know, from your wonderful wife right there who did CPR on you, to the first responders who came, to the people in the hospital. You have the chance right now to just take a moment and just say what you'd like to say to those folks who worked on you from beginning to end. And it's okay if you say, first of all, Marty, you did a good job. Go ahead and you can tell her that. But then everybody else, what would you like to say to
I
them?
wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for Marty. I mean, she saved my life. But the thing I mean, the people want to help you. Don't get an attitude, keep an attitude of gratitude, And my sense of humor came back, and I was saying a lot of weird, funny stuff, and I just got to be friends with a lot of the people that work there, and I think that helped me to come back. And I wasn't like my brain wasn't oxygen deprived, so I mean it was working good, and I remember things, and I can,
Do you want to say thank you?
Thank you.
No, to all the people.
Oh yeah, thank you to all the people. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Get around to that thank you part. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's such an honor to
And
meet you both
you,
in this virtual setting. And you're not a loss for words unless your wife prompts you, and then you're a loss
Yeah.
for words. So it's an honor to tell your story. It's an honor to have you here with the Survivors Reunion. Thanks for letting us tell your story and to get to know you just a little better. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Wesley, and thank you, Marty. I really appreciate you being with us today for this program. I hope that you found those stories interesting as I did, and emotional as I'm sure you did. I'm going to hand things back over to Ken now as we complete this wonderful presentation program today.
Thanks, Ted. And now to wrap things up, I just want to extend some sincere thanks to our Survivors Reunion Core Committee members who have tirelessly put in so much effort into this event over all the years. And also to thank the sponsors who, without their support, we couldn't put something on like this. Bringing these survivors together to reunite with their first responders, something that we normally would do in person, and which hopefully next year we'll be able to do that and have the hugs and the emotion of the human spirit being close together. So again, thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you've enjoyed our program.